I've been in Michigan for almost 3 years. Michigan was the only state in the 2010 census to have a decline in population. That's how many jobs were lost in Michigan and how many people moved from Michigan down to the lower parts of the states to find work, to find jobs. And so a lot of times people hear about this, a good preacher, a young preacher that resigned from his job, a good job, and they're like, why? Why would a guy who has a good job, good pay, decent pay, and resign from that without, especially not having anything lined up, any solid work lined up to follow, to pay the bills? Why would a guy in his right mind do that? Having a wife and two daughters, not two families, certainly not. A wife and 2 daughters. Why in the world would a guy do that? Well, that question is a simple question, and the answer is equally simple. Well, because of the good work going on in Guyana, South America. That's why I've resigned as a pulpit minister and am ready to dedicate myself to, and I've already dedicated myself to, the foreign missions full time. Add to that, because of the fertile soil in the interior of Guyana, South America. And I'll describe and share a couple of stories and share a couple of pictures relative to the fertile soil in the interior of Guyana. And so we have set ourselves to make this transition from ministry to missions work. And also because of my heart's desire. I've always wanted to do mission work. And when I was in preaching school, when I was interning here, I was trained to be a preacher, a pulpit man. And I've enjoyed thoroughly filling the pulpit and preaching and serving in ministry for local churches in Virginia, Alabama, the same location for 8 years in Alabama, and now for almost 3 years in Michigan. I love ministry. I love missions more. I have to make a choice of what I love and what I really love, and I'm making that choice. I'm also resigning from I've resigned from what I'm doing to do full-time mission work because of the opportunity to do this mission work full-time. And as I'll explain, there's an opportunity, a unique opportunity here with this mission effort in the interior of Guyana for Paul and Timothy to work side by side, for an older missionary and a younger missionary to work together to accomplish God's work in the interior. This is a unique opportunity, and I'll explain that more. I am very thankful for the opportunity to come and make this presentation about what is happening in the interior among the indigenous people of Guyana, South America. I want to share with you, most of you know who I am. I grew up here in Richmond. I grew up in the non-institutional church, the conservative church here in Richmond. And as I went to school, I interned at this church. You all were very gracious to allow me to come in for 5 weeks while I was in school, and then after for about 6 months. And I began full-time ministry moving from Richmond to Virginia. And I've been gone since for the last 13 years engaged in good works. But for some of you are new and to the Richmond Church since then, and you may be thinking, well, who is this guy coming in and thinking that I know him, and I don't know you and you don't know me. Well, let me introduce myself. My name's David Paher. My wife and I have been Christians for over 20 years. Both of us being raised in the church. I met my wife at the Fairfax Church. Her dad was preaching at Fairfax in Winchester at the time, and that's where we met. And it didn't take long for me to start driving over to Fairfax instead of going to Berea or Richmond or whatever. But anyway, both she and I have been married almost 15 years together, continuously, same people. And then we've been in local work for almost 13 years. I love King Jesus. And I love serving His church. That's what this is about. This is about expanding the borders of the kingdom through the gospel of Jesus Christ. As I mentioned, my heart is in foreign missions, and so we're making this transition. I want to ask a question to you. Who would be, if you were to draw, maybe you're like me, the only drawing I could do is a stick man. That's the best I can do. But if you can draw or visualize in your mind an ideal missionary, the age and the experience and the heart and the passion, who would that be? Would it be someone that maybe is fresh out of school, has a lot of heart, has a lot of health, has a lot of passion, has a lot of book knowledge, but not a lot of practical experience? Or on the contrast, on the other side, maybe an older missionary that has a lot of experience, 50 years experience, let's say, in preaching and studying of the Word, but is beginning to experience health problems. Or would we like to have someone right there in the middle who has some experience, has passion, has zeal, knowledge? I want you to think about that as I explain to you what it is that I will be doing and others in the interior of Guyana. I was talking on the phone with an elder in Alabama, and he and the church where he serves has been working with some churches along the coast of Guyana. And he said, and he was kind of discouraged because the coast of Guyana is different from the interior of Guyana in many ways. He was somewhat discouraged because the hearts are not as fertile along the coastland. They're still very fertile, but not as fertile as among the Amerindian people. And he was describing, Guyana is a place, it's a third world country, and there's no running water, no reliable electricity. The first time I went, I slept in a tent, and as an Eagle Scout, I like that. Now you're talking my stuff. Last summer, 2012, my wife went with me, and I got upgraded to a double bed. That's fine too. This same elder said, of all the years he's been able to go to Guyana, he never got his wife to go. And his preacher, about the same age, never got his wife to go. I couldn't help but to tell him, brother, I got my wife to go. There are very little modern conveniences, but that's in part what makes this mission effort so wonderful, and for the hearts of the people to be so fertile for listening and hearing and receiving the gospel. If you don't have a TV that competes with Bible time, guess what? You get to study the Bible. On our last trip, I'm going to turn around one time to make sure that the buttons. Okay. So do I just need to put this down? What you have here is, I'm just kidding. All right, in a minute, there's going to be a crowd of folks, and this represents on our last trip in July of 2012, when my wife and I went. We went to the village of Moruca. I believe that was the same village that 3 months later Mike and Austin went and did another campaign there. When we went in 2002, there were 21 baptisms. 10 of those I had baptized. And my wife went with me on every study, on every hike. We hiked 10 miles every day, backpacks on, and I think I've got a picture of us hiking in the jungle, and there ain't nothing but 4 of us traveling, 2 Amerindians, my wife and myself, 4 of us, and our backpacks in the trees, the jungle is where we go. This fact alone, relative to baptizing 10 people, you see, in 12 years of full-time ministry, I've never baptized 10 people in any given calendar year. This fact alone compels me to make the transition to divert my time, my energy, my experience, my passion, my heart, my knowledge to the work in Guyana. My question that I continue to ask myself, if I can baptize, if the Lord through me can baptize 10 folks in a 9-day campaign, what can be done with full-time devotion to preaching of the gospel among the Amerindian people of Guyana? Now, what about Guyana? What's so special? Guyana borders Venezuela, Brazil, Suriname, and the Atlantic Ocean. It's in the northeast quadrant of South America. It's close by. Guyana is located in the same hemisphere as us, and often many months during the year, same time zone. Located a few hours from Miami, I can travel from my house and be in Georgetown the same day. And then the next day, we're in the village, the target village, and we're preaching the gospel. We're setting up studies on day one in Guyana. It just takes a couple hours to get there and a lot of patience, but it's relatively easy. South America, Guyana in South America is the only South American country who has their official language is English. So preaching and teaching and studying is just as easy as you listening to me right now. They speak, in fact, the video on our website, globalharvestmission.com, opens with a teenage girl reading Matthew 16:18 very clearly. It was so clear, I said, I don't know when I'm going to do a video, but you're going to be on it, and I'm going to have you read. Our money goes a lot further in Guyana. $200 in Guyana money is $1 U.S. Most importantly, the soil is so fertile for the gospel of Jesus Christ. On one occasion, and I'll share her picture toward the end, on one occasion I had a Bible study set up waiting for folks to get there, and this girl was walking home from school, and I said, I walked up to her. Do you like to, I introduced, my name's David Paher. We're here with the Church of Christ. We're having campaigns every night. We're here, my wife and I are here at this location waiting for so-and-so to get here so we can start our Bible study. Do you like to study the Bible? She said yes. Would you like to join us in the study of the Scriptures? She said yes. After 2 hours of studying the Scriptures, she was baptized into Christ. That's not the exception. That's the rule. That's how fertile the soil is. And so, we go to do multiple things. Basically, this campaign, the campaigns that we do are twofold, or have two parts to the mission efforts. First is our evangelistic campaign. I'll be honest, I don't know how to set a tooth. I don't know how to splint a bone or set a bone. I don't know how to lay brick. I mean, the work's not beneath me. I'd be happy to lay a brick and help build a church building. That's fascinating. But somebody's going to show me how to put the brick and how to put the mortar and all that kind of stuff. I think I can do it, but if you want it done right, you better show me how to do it. But I can preach the gospel. This mission effort is not medical missions. It's evangelistic missions. We study and we preach and we teach so that souls may be saved. Later, people may come in. People come in to build buildings and do other things. But this is evangelistic work. We teach people the gospel. We do deliver goods, and I'll be more specific here in a minute. Ladies that come with us, they teach ladies' Bible classes, and they teach VBSs, Vacation Bible School style classes to children, and that's helpful. We also during the day make visits to homes or huts, and to encourage people and to set up Bible studies. And then we also, in encouraging members to those that may have fallen away, we aim to restore those members. Add to that now some pictures. This next picture is October 2002. In some of these pictures you may see my face distorted. This was like 6 months or 5 or 4 months after I was stricken with Bell's palsy. And that God has worked something on my mind through Bell's palsy. Fortunately, it's been 3 years, a little over 3 years since I was stricken with Bell's palsy, and I still have some effects, but it has caused me, and I'm very thankful. I don't know what Paul's thorn in the flesh was, but I know what mine is. It's Bell's palsy. I'd like for it to go away, but it's a reminder that health is fleeting, and time is fleeting, and heaven draws near. And some people have cancer. Some people have to give up a liver or a kidney. I thank God I can still preach the gospel. I'm going to use my health while I have it to go and bring souls to Jesus. Well, it's been a long time since I teared up, and that's a homiletical no-no, but we're going to press on. I preach and I teach. The second picture, I think, I don't know what I'm teaching, but the identity of the church or something like that. But people, the first picture, when I went, this village was 90 miles from Lethem, out in the middle of nowhere. It took 5 hours to drive 90 miles. to give you some perspective as to the remoteness of this. Now, this village was so far out in the sticks that you had to pipe sunlight in on alternate Sundays. That's how far out this village was. No phones. This village, when I preached a lesson on this village, for example, loves to hear about the Samaritan woman. Jesus came and talked with the Samaritan woman, and you can see the progression in John chapter 4 of this woman. In verse 9, she says, "You're a Jew, and you ask of me water?" In verse 19, after he tells her about her marriage situation, she says, "I perceive that you're a prophet." And in verse 29, she goes into the town and said, "Hey, I had met a guy who told me all things I ever did. Could this be the Christ?" You see her progression of faith. This village responded, listened to the Samaritan woman, and Jesus talking to the Samaritan woman who lived in a village and who took the opportunity to tell someone else about Jesus, and the village people came. We teach, preach. The ladies teach Bible classes. We deliver goods. Another part of our work is benevolence. It's a smaller part, and it assists the evangelistic work. If we came in and didn't have do any benevolent good, I believe some good could be done with just evangelism. But benevolence helps. Benevolence is very important. It is commanded by God. And it's one of those things, it's one of those pie pieces that you just can't remove from church ministry or mission work because it's very, very important. Not just because it's a command, but because it lets people know that God's people care. And that's huge. So don't misunderstand me. I don't mean to leave the impression that benevolence is not important. It is very important. Evangelism is our focus. So in our benevolent work, we take various items, and there's a list of the various items that we take. We take solar lights, over-the-counter medicine, sandals and flip-flops, clothing, non-perishable food, rice and flour, for example. We take glasses, we take stuffed animals and toys, some of which are made by sisters in the States. We take bicycles and tools. The solar lights, I remember the first time I went, and I remember Jerry Davidson. He is the older missionary that I'm partnering with. Jerry Davidson was explaining to the American people how these solar lights work. And I began to cry because you know, there's no electricity in this village where we were. And he says you pull out the tab, you stick it in the ground, the sun lights and charges the battery, and then you could pull it out of the ground and light your pathway as you're walking through the woods, through the jungle. Or what you could do is you can unscrew the top and you could put it on the somewhere in the house. Now, the way a lot of the Guyanese homes or the huts are, even if it's built by cinder block or whatever, the walls do not go all the way up to the ceiling, especially the interior. And I guess I'm a preacher, I'm not a builder. I guess what you do is you build all the walls and then you just put a roof on it or something. But anyway, you can put one of these solar lights on top of one of the interior walls, and it sheds light to all that are in the house. It reminds me, and this is why I teared up, because it was right out of the Bible. Matthew 5, verse 15. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all that are in the house. But we don't just come to bring solar lights, we come to bring the light of the gospel that shines through all the house. Add to that, we distribute over-the-counter medicine. This is according to the principle of Galatians 6:10. Do good to all men, but especially to the household of faith. And so on Sunday after worship, we distribute whatever we have to the saints first. And we also want to make sure that there's a big bundle. And what we do is all the missionary, everyone that's a part of the campaign brings over-the-counter or whatever we have, and then we put it all in a pile, and it's sorted. And a small portion is put in like a Walmart baggie, tied up and given to a family, a Christian family. And we make sure that there's a big bundle that's given to the local clinic, the local medic who can administer, and here's another part, another great part of benevolence. It lets the local village have a good memory of the Church of Christ because they came and brought medicine and goods for the people, not just for Christians first, but for all men. And so, especially in some of the villages where when the gospel, when we come in for the first time and maybe are asked to leave because they don't want to hear the gospel that's contrary to existing religion, but before we left, we had an opportunity to baptize one or two, and that started the church there. And then subsequent trips, we're invited in because there are Christians there, and that's how it works. We bring medicine. And now they want us to come because we bring stuff in addition to, we bring stuff when we come. We hand out flip-flops. And there's a picture of a table of flip-flops where the kids get to find what size fits them. And there's the next slide is of a girl who is waiting for the store tag to be removed. And I don't think you can see it see her feet in that photo, but she's not wearing any flip-flops. And maybe she had a pair before but outgrew them, but many of the folks do not have. The next is many dresses are sewn by sisters in the States. Some are just donated. They're used clothing, and they're shipped down by container. And here, a girl's being fitted with a dress. I think that one's made by a sister in the States. The next slide shows church members receiving rice and flour, and it's just an armful. It's not much. That may feed them for a week. It's not a lot, but it lets them know that we care. Another, we bring glasses, and that shows that, here's a lady reading God's Word, possibly for the first time because she can see, or maybe for the first time in a long time. Children receive bears and toys, and those bears are made by members of the church in the States and are shipped down. Bicycles are also furnished or bought, some. There were on my first trip, there were 2 bicycles bought. I had asked Jerry, said, is that one of the things that's shipped by container? And he said, we tried that. And I guess the bicycles are made in China and shipped to the States, imported to the States. And he said they don't hold up. They held up about 2 weeks on the trails of Guyana. So we don't ship bicycles anymore. We just send the money. And we buy Brazilian-made bicycles in Guyana that are made for those trails. And we were sitting, waiting for a few minutes, waiting for the go that it's time to load up and head to the village. And Jerry said, we need these 2 bicycles be ridden over to taken over to the School of Preaching. And I don't know, maybe 2 miles, or maybe it was, shame to say, it may have been less. I volunteered happily for that. I'd rather do that than sit. And after doing that, I was sorry I volunteered because it's the first time I rode the bicycle in 10 years. But anyway, it was I felt it an honor to suffer for the cause of Christ. The next slide is me handing a cutlass, a machete, to a Guyanese preacher, an Amerindian preacher. He serves the church in a place called Monkey Mountain. I don't know if I'd like to live there, but it sounds kind of neat. But a place called Monkey Mountain, and he some of the things that are furnished or not like it's a necessity, but something we're happy to furnish, help furnish is our tools. Because many of the people are farmers, and these things help them. If doesn't matter what the job is, it could be auto mechanics. If you don't have the right tools, it's going to take a lot longer, isn't it? You got to have the right tools. So they have their tools. We come in and we furnish better tools, and it enhances their job, their farming, and they appreciate that. And it's something, it's not much, but it lets them know that we care. I don't know what happened to my PowerPoint or my printing, but I've got a page of blank slides. So excuse me while I turn around to see what the next slides are. This is where I kind of make a transition in the presentation. Why do we hike every day for miles in the bush, or brush if you prefer, of South America? The answer is because of the fertile heart, the fertile soil and the soft hearts for the hearing and the studying of God's Scriptures. And so we go setting up Scriptures. There I'm studying with two boys, one of whom decided to be baptized, the other one did not. And the other two folks are a Christian couple that have been baptized before, on previous campaigns. I think the next, ooh, that's a pretty picture. That's not Guyana. I don't know what that is. This is a nice commercial break for your entertaining thoughts. Is that Kentucky? I knew it was pretty. That's not Guyana either. Anyway, we study the Scriptures, and there's a couple of folks, there's a couple of pictures of me studying the Scriptures with folks, because my first trip, it was just me with the others. I didn't think well enough to say, hey, hand somebody the camera and say, hey, would you take my picture while I'm studying the Scriptures so that I could put that in a report? So I didn't have many pictures of me studying the Scriptures. I had pictures of mountains and trees and cows and chickens and all the fascinating stuff that people like to hear about, and bugs. But anyway, I thought a little bit better about that the next time. So I do have some pictures of me actually doing what I went there to do. Anyway, additional pictures are of families, and you can just scroll through for the next 8 slides or so, every 5 seconds or so. I appreciate that. We have some individuals who were baptized, who I'd studied with, who had baptized. Some of the people were baptized by others. I've snapped their photos. One of them, you might recognize the person doing the baptizing, Mike's dad. Gene baptized a Tushao. That was in October of 2010, and I was there and saw him baptize. That couple is Neil and Letha Abraham. They were baptized, they were married and baptized on the same day. One of the problems in Guyana is that people are cohabitating. And this family had 3 children. And part of it, cohabitation is sin. I believe that. I believe the Bible teaches that. The Bible says in Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 4, let marriage, Hebrews 13 and verse 4, let marriage have its honor among all, and the bed undefiled, but whoremongers and adulterers God will judge. Part of the reason why there's so many couples that are cohabitating in Guyana, and especially among the Amerindian people, is because of the lack of transportation and roads to get to the bigger cities, and the lack of records. Sometimes people don't have their birth certificate. It's a very difficult process, and because of the lack of transportation, the lack of funds that people have, it's not always. It's never easy. Sometimes it's not possible to get your birth certificate in a very timely manner. That's not an excuse. It helps to explain the situation, but it's very, very important that these folks be married. And this couple wanted to be married. And one of the things we do also is make sure that when we have a campaign that there's a marriage official. I can marry somebody, I can marry a couple here in the States, maybe only a couple states, every state's different, but I can't marry a couple in Guyana. I think you have to be a Guyanese, and you have to go through rigorous procedure and a lot of red tape to be a marriage official, and that's one of the things we want to make sure and do is that the Amerindian preachers that are trained in the schools also become marriage officials, because that's very important. When we come into the village and there are people living in sin, we can't baptize them and have them be Christians that day and at night live in sin. So it's very important that those that are living in sin, when they repent of sin and want to obey the gospel, that they be married or else separate. And so we make sure that we study the Scriptures and do so thoroughly and teach people to repent of sin. But anyway, this couple was ready, had all their documents ready to be married, and so they were, and then they were baptized immediately after. Another slide shows. Yes, this is a video. If it plays, this is a video of a gentleman. He was our security guard in the Maruka village for the 9-day campaign, and it was kind of somewhat humorous because you think of a security guard, it'd be a bulky guy, carrying a nightstick or something, some kind of means of protection. Well, here's a scrawny guy, and he's blind in one eye and got some, somewhat crippled a little bit. And I thought, well, if we ever run into trouble, I don't know if he's the guy that I'd really want to defend me, but we'll take what we can get. We'll just pray harder. But anyway, he was there every night. He had to be. He was our security guard. He was our security force. And he heard the preaching of the gospel, and it didn't take long for him to begin to ask questions in his mind and verbalize those questions and want to study. And I baptized him into Christ after studying the Scriptures with him. That's Francis Torres is his name, and that's him receiving his Bible and baptismal certificate. The next slide, I think, is another video. There are some denominations in Guyana. And I believe all the people there are sincere in their religious studies, their religious knowledge, and so on and so forth. But we go there to teach and to preach. Let's show the next slide, please. We go to teach and to preach, and when people obey the gospel and are taught right, they learn to worship God in sincerity and in the truth. And so that's what we do. We teach to people to become Christians, and we teach them how to be saved, and we teach them how to stay saved. And that's what we do. These children are sitting in a Bible class. The next slide shows children standing along a wall, and because there's no room in the pews. Many of these children come without their parents. They're there, standing during the sermon, during the preaching, without their parents. I like to remind my daughter of that. Let's see, the next slide. I've got two more that are blanks. This is again the picture, the 10 folks that I had baptized. Actually, there's 9. 9 of the 10 that I baptized are in this picture. The other 4 are me, my wife, and the 2 Amerindian people that went with us. And then the next slide is the sister the teenage girl that I'd studied with, that I told you that was walking down the road, and I said, "Do you like to study the Scriptures? Would you like to study with us?" And after 2 hours, she was baptized. And let's go to the next slide. What is unique about Global Harvest Mission? What is unique about my work in the interior of Guyana is the unique relationship that Jerry Davidson and I have with respect to the gospel. Jerry Davidson has been doing Guyana missions he's been going to Guyana, I believe, for 24 years. But for the last 9 years, he has focused exclusively on the Amerindian people. There are several mission efforts going on now in Guyana, and all of them, I believe, are doing good work. Most of the missionaries, in fact, all the missionaries, focus along the coast, and they're doing good works. And it's relatively easy to get in and out of those cities. There are paved roads, there are buses and taxis. I can pay somebody $1,000, that's $5 US, and spend an hour and to go from Georgetown to one of those villages, and I can probably pass 3 church buildings along the way. Travel is relatively easy, but it's not that way among the Amerindian people. And again, they don't have TVs and radios and Wii's and all that thing to compete with and to schedule against. You ask people, you want to study the Bible? And they do. So I'm going with Jerry. There are 2 parts to the work that I will be doing. The first is going with Jerry on the 3-week campaigns each year to learn the work, learn the contacts, to spend time with Jerry, to learn about the mission effort, learn the people. It doesn't matter where you go in the interior of Guyana, everyone speaks of Jerry Davidson. He is the guy because he's been going for so long and has done so much among the Amerindian people. In fact, several articles have been written in the national papers, Guyana papers, about Jerry Davidson and the work of Amerindian missions. Well, David Paher and Global Harvest Mission is partnering with Jerry Davidson to go with him, to learn and to grow, and to help shore up the evangelistic work and those campaigns that are being done already. But if you count it up, 3-week trips, that's 9 weeks every year. Follow-up work currently is for there to be more time devoted 3 months from now in the next major campaign. More time needs to be spent, more weeks need to be devoted to this work for follow-up work. And when whether you're speaking of local church evangelism in the local community or foreign missions, it doesn't matter what evangelism you're talking about, follow-up is very important. It doesn't matter what, again, it doesn't matter what foreign mission effort you're talking about or what missionary or what mission effort, the same question can be asked. How many of those who were baptized remain faithful? That's a very important question. Well, in Guyana, I don't know what the true answer is, but I would imagine, I know that it's very good because there are, out of 150 Amerindian villages, and that really can't be an exact count because there's no way to know how many Indian villages there are in the interior where there are no lines of communication. But at best count, there's about 150. In 30 of those villages have the Lord's church. That's 20%. 18 of those have church buildings. That's 12% or 18. I forget. 18, 12%, somewhere in there. You can see just by the stats alone that there needs to be 4 of me. There needs to be 5 Timothys to go with Paul to do this kind of work and to follow up on the work that is already being done. And so just taking a look, Amerindian Missions, Jerry Davidson and Amerindian Missions goes and has 3 campaigns, 3 weeks each. The church buildings are built and preachers are trained in the schools. My work would be to assist and advise in those campaigns. And then the second part of my work is follow-up. I will be making, I've got 8 trips planned for next year. 3 of those are with Jerry. The other 5 are by myself, with Jason, or with others who are willing to go for 1 week at a time or 2 weeks at a time to do follow-up work among the Amerindian people. As I said, there needs to be 4 more of me, but we can only start with what we have, what we know, and what we're doing. And so I'm beginning this work to go with Jerry Davidson and to go in addition to Jerry Davidson for the sole purpose of bringing the gospel to the Amerindian people. Now, what can you do? Here are several things you can do. Certainly, you can pray for our work. Prayer is not the least you can do, it's the most you can do. Prayer is the only thing I know that moves heaven, or in a major way at least. Another thing you could do is to watch the DVD and to share the DVD. And you can secure a copy of a DVD or a brochure out on the table, on the display table in the foyer. Please watch that DVD and share it. It's a 10-minute video on there. In fact, there are 5 videos. All told, it's 15 minutes. If you like it, share it. If you don't, well, then we'll redo it. But please, you got to watch it so that you know what you're recommending. You can sign up there's a sign-up sheet, register for our free email PDF newsletters that'll come out quarterly. Please do that. You can assist us. As Jason mentioned, you can assist us in making calls. There are several calls that need to be made for those who pledge support, who said, hey, I'm going to support, but I need to start in December or November or January or whatever. Also, to follow up when we get some checks, we need people to follow up and say, hey, is this a one-time check? Is this a monthly? Are you sending $1,000 a month? Or are you sending $1,000 one time? I'm just kidding. Another thing you could do is help send supplies. All the things I mentioned, and maybe a few others that I left out, you can help send those things to Guyana. We send them down to Mobile, or we would send them to Mobile, and then they're shipped by the container. Another thing you could do is accompany us on one of those trips or more as you are able. And we are scheduling 1-week trips, 2-week trips, and the 3-week trips are already scheduled, already planned. 1 in the spring, 1 in the summer, and 1 in the fall. I think I have one last slide, and I think it's a concluding slide with the mission effort, the logo, and the website for your records. Again, my name is David Paher. I am Global Harvest Mission. This is to, again, go with Jerry, the existing missionary, on the ground to do evangelistic work among the Amerindian people, and secondly, to go in addition to him to follow up, to shore up the support, not financial support, the evangelistic support, and do the follow-up that's needed in Guyana. You can read all about our work at globalharvestmission.com. Yes?
If they want to write a check, should it be to you or Global Harvest?
Please do not write a check to me. write it to globalharvestmission.com. Why do you not write checks to me? Because I tell folks that I don't receive checks, I don't deposit checks, I don't sign checks. Make it out to Global Harvest Mission, and that all the funds come into to Richmond, and that's part of Richmond overseeing this work. All checks come into to Richmond. You can give it to Jason, or you can give it to Joe. You could put it in the box that's out there on the foyer, but I'm telling you, by this afternoon and tonight, that box is going to be emptied and given to Jason or Joe. Thank you for your time and your attention.